Hello everybody, Mary here from Rocky Mountain Gardens, and it's been quite a while since I shared afternoon tea with you, and I have something special today. My daughter actually went to England last November, and for a souvenir for me, she brought me back this selection of Fortnum and Mason teas. There are 6 types. And today we're going to be trying one called the Royal Blend. Fortnum and Mason is world-renowned for its teas, and it is a little bit pricey. And we'll take a taste of this Royal Blend and see if it is as delicious as reported. The Royal Blend is said to have been one of the favorites of Queen Elizabeth. And it was specifically created for, I believe, Edward VII of England in the early 1900s. Now, Fortnum and Mason department store has actually been around since 1707. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Lots of history there. So I'm going to go ahead and open my tea bag. We're going to place it in my teacup here, which is a Royal Albert teacup. It's very pretty blue color with pink roses. I really love it. This is another gift from my daughter for Christmas time. So I have some hot water here in my teapot. We're going to pour it in. You can let your tea steep as long as you like, you know, according to your taste of how strong you enjoy tea to be. They also recommend that you drink it with milk. Now, not being British, I don't love milk in my tea. I do know that it's very common for the English to drink milk in their tea. So I also, guys, yesterday went antiquing with one of my girlfriends, and I bought this little teapot. It's porcelain, and it is used for holding your used tea bags. Instead of having to put your tea bag on your saucer here, when your tea is ready, then you go ahead and place your tea bag on this little tea plate. I have also read that it is customary not to squeeze out your tea bag because it can leave some bitterness in your tea, in the flavor. So I'm not going to squeeze out my tea bag. I'm simply going to place it on its little plate. And then I also have some chocolate chip cookies that I made. That's one of my favorite cookies. And being afternoon tea, we're going to have a sip, and I'll let you know how it tastes. It has a little bit of a flowery taste, I would say, and it's very delicious without anything added, no sugar, no milk. I find it to be quite delicious. If you would like to try it, it's actually available on Amazon, and like I said, it is a little bit more pricey than, for example, Lipton tea. But if you want a special tea to drink in the afternoons, and it does have caffeine in it, but if you'd like a special tea to have for a special occasion, or, you know, just relaxing on a winter afternoon, go ahead and order it from Amazon. I'll put a link down below my video here so that you can see how to order it and find it easily if you're interested. All right, friends. Well, time for a chocolate chip cookie and some tea, and then we'll get on to our video for today. Let's get on to the topic for this video, which is winter interest in the garden. I'm going to be sharing with you some trees, bushes and perennials that make wonderful little vignettes of interest in your garden over the winter time. I know that in the winter time things look brown and dead and not very uplifting, don't you agree? But with some winter interest planted in your garden, sort of planning ahead as you are thinking about gardening this coming spring, you can also put some of these plants perhaps on your shopping list and then get them going in your garden for future growth and a beautiful look to your winter space. Let's go ahead and see some of these plants. Our first specimen is the Colorado blue spruce. Now this tree was planted in the corner of my backyard by the previous owners, which was way too close to the fence. And you may know that Colorado blue spruces grow to tremendous size. So I had an arborist come and limb up my tree, which means they cut off the lower limbs and the upper part of the tree now can grow unhindered and not push out the fences that it was planted too close to. Now, if you have a small urban garden, you might want to consider this globe blue spruce, which will give you that beautiful silvery blue color in your garden, but not take up nearly as much room, and it can handle quite a bit of trimming to produce a sort of a topiary lollipop shape, which I have not done, as you can see in my specimen. I actually have just let it grow wild, and you can do whichever you choose. Now let me introduce you to this Vanderwolf's limber pine. It is simply stunning. It has a narrow, upright habit, which makes it easier to grow in a smaller neighborhood garden. And although it grows quite tall, 10 to 15 feet tall actually, at 10 years, it will not take up as much width space in your garden. Here is a close-up of the blue and green needles that grow from its branches. Aren't they stunning? Such a gorgeous color. This skyrocket juniper, which I placed in the middle of my yard, has grown, I think, to its maximum size. It's about 15 years old. But it is a great separator if you would like to create rooms in your garden. And that's how it acts in my garden, actually. It's a wonderful tree for that purpose. And here is a close-up of the juniper berries that grow abundantly on this tree. My birds in the backyard have almost stripped it of all of the juniper berries. So if you enjoy watching birds and attracting them to your yard, it's a perfect addition to your garden. Next, I would like to recommend my dwarf Alberta spruce. This is a small evergreen. It only grows to 7 feet tall when it is mature, and it is quite beautiful, covered with snow in the winter, but retains its lovely green color as we go through the season. Our first specimen of bushes is my wintergreen boxwood. Now, this type of boxwood can survive in zone 4 conditions. So for those of you who live in the north or the mountains, it is the variety that you want to seek out, because generally a zone 5 boxwood, which most of them are, will not survive our winters. But this one, as you can see, remains green throughout the winter, keeps its foliage, and is wonderful for winter interest. One of my favorite bushes for winter interest is the red twig dogwood. And as you can see from the photo, it has bright red twigs that are visible during the winter time when it loses its leaves. Isn't it simply beautiful? And oh my, it really shines in the winter. The first perennial we'll discuss today is this Autumn Joy sedum, and this is a photo from my garden. You can see how beautifully it blooms in the late summer, but if you do not cut back the stems when it turns cold and let it turn this really vivid autumn shade of brownish, tannish gold, you can enjoy it throughout the winter time. Next is this Moonshine Yarrow, which is one of my favorites also in perennials because its yellow blooms are very long lasting. But I don't cut back the stems because I love the look of the heads of the yarrow as they turn brown, and they bring some interest to my garden during the winter time. If you have watched any of my summertime garden tours, you may have noticed that I really rave about my Joe Pye weed, which is a native of our country, and it also provides these spectacular pink blooms late in the summertime. Like my other perennials, you can see here that I leave the stems standing until later in the spring, and oh my goodness, don't they look gorgeous with these lovely stems and spent flowers covered with frost? Let's move on to another type of perennial, the grass family. And here you can see my switchgrass in the late fall and how the inflorescences are spiking up. Now, on the second picture, they have opened up a little bit more and look more fluffy, I guess you might say. And they are quite gorgeous and lovely in the winter time. I never cut down my grasses until later in the spring when they are beginning to grow new leaves. But they look fabulous in the winter landscape, and there are so many varieties of grasses that you can include in your garden, and they're quite hardy. So I highly recommend them to add to your garden. So friends, I just wanted to note that every plant that you've seen in this video can withstand zone 4 winters if you happen to live in that extreme of a climate, and you can feel assured that you will be able to grow them where you live. And I want to thank you all so very, very much as we are watching these scenes from my neighborhood and backyard, that I appreciate you so much, and I want to say thank you for stopping by my channel. And you can subscribe if you like, if you find this information interesting. This is Mary saying bye for now.